The Masquerade of Love. Giorgio Lucchesi, a native of Verona, found himself in the opulent dining halls of London's Mayfair. With a talent for charming even the most irascible diner, Giorgio was the epitome of the impeccable Italian waiter. His sharp black eyes, chiseled features, and a smile that could melt the iciest of hearts made him a favorite among the affluent clientele. But behind the facade of servility and endless politeness lay a heart fueled by ambition. Giorgio's dream was not just to serve the wealthy but to be one of them. The son of a cobbler, he had grown tired of the daily grind of the lower classes. He had observed the lives of the rich and titled, their effortless grace, and the freedom their wealth afforded them. He wanted that life, and he knew exactly how to get it. The plan was simple. Befriend the wealthy women who dined at the restaurant, charm them, and ultimately, marry one of them. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but Giorgio was nothing if not persistent. And so, every evening, he waited with bated breath for the arrival of the next potential bride. One crisp autumn evening, the dining hall was abuzz with the arrival of Lady Ponsonby Smythe, a name that carried significant weight in the circles of high society. Giorgio's colleague, Edward, nudged him as the lady, accompanied by a small entourage, was seated. "That's Lady Ponsonby Smythe," Edward whispered. "Old money. Very old money." Giorgio straightened his bow tie and approached her table with the grace of a dancer. "Good evening, my lady. Welcome to La Trattoria Romana. May I start you with an aperitif?" Lady Ponsonby Smythe looked up, her eyes meeting Giorgio's with an intensity that surprised him. She was striking, with raven-black hair, high cheekbones, and an air of confidence that suggested she was accustomed to getting what she wanted. "A Negroni, please," she said, her voice smooth and commanding. Giorgio nodded, but as he turned to leave, she spoke again. "And your recommendation for dinner, Signor?" "Lucchesi, my lady." "Giorgio Lucchesi," he replied with a smile. "I recommend the osso buco. It is exquisite." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then osso buco it is." Throughout the evening, Giorgio attended to her table with meticulous care. He made sure her glass was never empty and that every dish was served with precision. When the meal concluded, Lady Ponsonby Smythe beckoned him closer. "You are very attentive, Signor Lucchesi. How long have you worked here?" "3 years, my lady," Giorgio replied, leaning in slightly. "And before that?" "I worked in a similar establishment in Rome," he lied effortlessly. In truth, he had arrived in London penniless, having left Verona only with dreams and determination. Lady Ponsonby Smythe's eyes lingered on him for a moment before she spoke again. "I host a small gathering at my estate on Friday evenings. Would you be so kind as to assist with the serving?" It was an unusual request, but one Giorgio could not refuse. "It would be my honor, my lady." Friday arrived with an air of anticipation. Giorgio donned his finest uniform and made his way to Lady Ponsonby Smythe's estate, a grand Georgian mansion nestled in the heart of the countryside. The house was abuzz with activity as servants prepared for the evening's festivities. Giorgio was directed to the kitchen, where he was briefed by the head butler. As he moved through the rooms, serving drinks and hors d'oeuvres, he observed the guests aristocrats, socialites, and dignitaries all conversing with an ease that belied their status. Lady Ponsonby Smythe was the epitome of grace, effortlessly gliding from one conversation to another. Giorgio noticed how she commanded the room, her presence magnetic. When their eyes met, she smiled, and he felt a strange flutter in his chest. As the evening progressed, Giorgio found himself drawn to her, not just for her wealth, but for the enigma she represented. He realized that his ambition to marry into wealth was no longer just a scheme, it had become personal. It was at one of these gatherings that Giorgio first met her, Dolly Dawkins, though she introduced herself as Lady Ponsonby Smythe. It was a masquerade ball, and the air was thick with mystery and intrigue. Guests wore elaborate masks, their true identities concealed beneath layers of silk and feathers. Giorgio had been serving champagne when he saw her, standing by the grand staircase. She wore a stunning emerald green gown that accentuated her figure, and her mask, adorned with peacock feathers, added an air of mystique. "Champagne, my lady?" Giorgio offered, extending a silver tray. She turned to him, her eyes sparkling behind the mask. Thank you, Signor Lucchesi, she replied, taking a glass. Giorgio was taken aback. You know my name? She smiled, a playful glint in her eyes. I make it a point to know the names of those who serve me. Intrigued, Giorgio decided to take a chance. And who might you be, my lady? She tilted her head slightly, as if considering her answer. I am Lady Ponsonby Smythe, of course, she said, her tone light and teasing. Giorgio's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? He had been so focused on the real Lady Ponsonby Smythe that he hadn't considered there might be impostors. But there was something about this woman that captivated him. Throughout the evening, Giorgio found himself drawn to her, stealing glances whenever he could. She moved with an elegance that seemed almost practiced, yet there was an undercurrent of nervousness that betrayed her. When she laughed, it was genuine, and when she spoke, it was with a warmth that the real Lady Ponsonby Smythe lacked. The masquerade ball stretched into the early hours of the morning. As the guests began to depart, Giorgio found himself alone in the grand hall, clearing away the remnants of the evening. He was lost in thought when he heard a soft voice behind him. Signor Lucchesi. He turned to find her standing there, her mask in hand. Without it, she seemed even more vulnerable, her eyes searching his for a reaction. Lady Ponsonby Smythe, he said, his voice filled with curiosity. She shook her head, a rueful smile on her lips. I'm afraid you've been deceived, Signor Lucchesi. I am no lady. Giorgio's heart pounded in his chest. Then who are you? My name is Dolly Dawkins, she confessed. I'm a seamstress from Lambeth. I've been masquerading as Lady Ponsonby Smythe to escape my life, just for a night. Giorgio was stunned. Why would you do such a thing? Dolly looked away, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Because sometimes, it's easier to pretend to be someone else than to face the reality of who you are. Giorgio felt a pang of sympathy for her. He understood the desire to escape, to be someone else, if only for a moment. I know the feeling, he said softly. Dolly's eyes met his, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They were both dreamers, both pretending to be something they were not, in a world that would never accept them for who they truly were. In the weeks that followed, Giorgio and Dolly grew closer. They met in secret, away from the prying eyes of high society. Giorgio learned about Dolly's struggles, her dreams, and her fears. She, in turn, learned about his ambitions, his longing for a life of wealth and status. Despite their shared dreams, Giorgio found himself falling for Dolly. She was kind, intelligent, and had a resilience that he admired. She made him laugh and challenged him in ways no one else had. He realized that his desire to marry into wealth had been replaced by a genuine affection for her. One evening, as they walked along the Thames, Giorgio turned to her, his heart heavy with unspoken words. Dolly, I have something to tell you. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with concern. What is it, Giorgio? I've been deceiving you too, he confessed. I came to London with the intention of marrying into wealth. I thought if I could charm a rich woman, I could escape my life of poverty. But now, I realize that none of that matters anymore. Dolly's eyes widened in surprise. What do you mean? I mean that I love you, Dolly. Not Lady Ponsonby Smythe, not anyone else. Just you. Dolly's eyes filled with tears as she reached for his hand. Oh, Giorgio, I love you too. But what future do we have? We're both penniless. How can we make a life together? Giorgio squeezed her hand, his resolve firm. We'll find a way. Together, we can face anything. We don't need wealth or status to be happy. All we need is each other. With their love declared, Giorgio and Dolly set out to build a life together. It wasn't easy. They faced many challenges, but their shared determination and love for each other saw them through. Giorgio continued to work as a waiter, but he took on extra jobs wherever he could find them. Dolly returned to her work as a seamstress, her skill and creativity quickly earning her a reputation in the local community. They saved every penny they could, and within a year, they had enough to open a small cafe. It wasn't the grand life of luxury they had once dreamed of, but it was theirs. Together, they poured their hearts into the business, and it flourished. The cafe became a gathering place for dreamers and romantics, a place where people from all walks of life could come together and share their stories. Giorgio and Dolly's love story became a beacon of hope for others, proof that true happiness could be found in the most unexpected places. Years passed, and Giorgio and Dolly's cafe grew in popularity. They expanded, opening new locations across London, each one infused with the warmth and love that had built the first. They never forgot their humble beginnings, and they remained dedicated to helping others who were struggling to find their way. Their love story became legendary, a tale of two dreamers who found each other in a world that seemed determined to keep them apart. Giorgio and Dolly lived a life filled with love, laughter, and the kind of wealth that couldn't be measured in money. And so, the penniless waiter and the seamstress who pretended to be a lady proved that true riches are found in the heart, and that love is the greatest fortune of all. The end.